Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to DIY with Cal.
Okay, so for my second restoration, I've picked up this sad looking bedside table off a Facebook Marketplace, needing a restoration, so I went to pick it up and see what I could do with it. Although this is my second restoration, it is my first restoration in my very own workshop, so I'm still trying to get used to how to make the space work for me and what's the most effective and efficient way of working in this space. So on to removing the feet. Now I tried to do this nice and calmly and by hand, and I very quickly found out that it's a lot easier to do with a drill. So here we go. And with all 4 feet removed, we can move on to the next step.
Okay, so as you can see, this has got a varnish on top of it. Alright, we've got veneer on the sides and a varnish on top of the veneer.
I'm going to grab a scraper to take off the varnish from the sides, and it's definitely not the sharpest tool in the box. So one clamp on, second clamp on. Now I am more than aware that this scraper is not very sharp. Unfortunately I didn't have any way of sharpening the scraper, so I just had to make do with what I had.
So you may be wondering why it's taking me 2 weeks to get you another video. Behind me is a little indication as to why I've not posted another restoration. Me and Jay over at Flip and Drawers have been really busy sorting this workshop out for myself. Okay, so I've got my own place to do my restorations now. Hopefully it ain't going to take me 2 weeks to get you another video. This little bit, it's got a little bit dusty. Taking the varnish off.
So I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that watched my first restoration. I really wasn't expecting that sort of response from my first video. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Brenda and Carol for my first purchases off of my Amazon wish list. They arrived in good time, and a little bit later on in the video you can see me put one to use.
One thing I love about doing this is every step is either satisfying or rewarding.
So unfortunately, as I was scraping, we had a slight accident and a little piece of the veneer come off, so we're going to repair it. I've got some wood glue and I'm just going to put a tiny little amount on here and then clamp it. So we're going to go on to removing the pulls. We got a little cap covering the square nut. So pry that off, and with that removed we can remove the square nut and then take our pull out. And that's just so I can finish scraping the varnish from the drawer and the door. So as I said before, I'm not a professional, and at the minute this is just a hobby of mine. that I can do in my spare time. I do have a full-time job where I teach motor mechanics at a college. Maybe one day I'll be doing restorations full-time.
I honestly feel like I'm going to be another year older by the time that I finish taking this varnish off. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be a year older by the time I finish this. And my birthday's in December.
So onto removing the pull from the door. We got another little cap to remove, then a square nut to take off, and then we can remove our pull. Then we're going to remove the hinges. These are going to be painted a little bit later on in the video.
Okay, so now all we're going to do is take the varnish off from the side. Now I don't want to lose too much shape of the wood, so I'm doing this by hand.
Believe it or not, these are not the easiest things to clamp down, but we got there in the end.
Okay, so what we're doing now is sanding the areas that I can't get to with anything else. Okay, so I do watch quite a lot of restorations myself on YouTube, and one thing that I do see quite often is people leave the bottom and the backs of things when restoring it. I just think if you're going to go through all that trouble to spend all the time on restoring what you can see, why not just go that little bit further? Okay, so just using a little scraper now to get into the areas that I couldn't get into with the other scraper. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We are nearly there. Most of the scraping is done, so we're on to sanding.
So at this point of the video, I did not have another sander to use on the project, so that's why it took a little bit longer than expected, but we did get there in the end.
Okay, ladies and gents, so what we're going to try and do now is repair this little piece that's missing from the veneer. So I'm just getting a little bit of tape around the edges. So we're just going to repair this slight bit of missing veneer, and to do that I'm going to use some wood filler, and I'll just tape around the missing part of veneer so I don't get it on any of the veneer that's still on the cabinet. A little bit more.
So this is one of the tools that I've received off of my Amazon wish list. It did kind of save the day, and it made sanding this project a lot easier. Here I'm just using a light to check for any scratches or imperfections in the veneer, and we're doing it now before we apply the top coat. Now we're onto the feet for the cabinet. There was no easy way to do this, so I decided to screw them to a piece of wood and use a nylon brush to remove any of the varnish that was still on there. Pretty early on into this process I realised that it was going to take me a little bit longer with a battery powered drill, so I moved on to a corded drill, which made it a lot quicker and a lot easier. So on the drawer you can notice some veneer that started to lift, so we're going to repair that. I'm going to line up some tape very closely to the edge to make sure that we don't get any glue anywhere we shouldn't, and then I'm just going to pry it open with a knife and squeeze some glue into it. I'm then going to put some tape onto the side and the top to pull it together and hold it in place. So onto the hardware. I'm using Barkeeper's Friend to remove some of the corrosion and rust that's built up on these pieces of metal over some time, and then I'm using a wire brush just to remove any pieces of corrosion. So although I'm going for a particular theme with this cabinet, that is not the reason that I have painted the hardware. So the pulls are not brass and the hinges are actually plated, so that's why I'm painting them. We've also got a piece of veneer missing from the side, so we're going to repair that with some repair wax. And for once it was a very nice day, so I decided to take the drawer outside and finish some repairs before I sprayed it with lacquer toner. Just a few more repairs to be made to the top of the cabinet with some repair wax. So because these are just small little pieces that need repair, that's why I'm using repair wax. If it was a larger piece of veneer missing, then I would replace it with a piece of veneer. To add a personal touch to this cabinet, I'm using a laser from Laser Pecker to put my logo on the back of it. So to go alongside the theme that I'm going with on this cabinet, I'm using black stain for the feet, and this is a spirit based stain, so the alcohol in it evaporates quite quickly, allowing it to dry faster. So I'm just going to clean up some of the screws that are going back into the cabinet. And then we need to do some colour correction on some of the repairs that have taken place. For that we're going to use fine tip touch-up markers. So getting the feet back onto the cabinet. This is a part of the project that I do like because it's when it starts coming back together. Hinges back on so we can fit the door. The screws didn't match the hinges, so all I'm doing here is painting the head of the screws to match the hinges.
Okay, so now we're going to apply some hard wax oil to the whole of this piece with a microfiber cloth.
On to my favourite part of the project. So this is where you can see what the final result will look like. And in this case, the oil that I'm using really makes the grain of the veneer pop out and make it a lot more noticeable. Once again, a big thank you to everybody for the support on my brand new channel. If you've enjoyed this restoration, please do let me know in the comments and feel free to give the video a like or a super like. For those that have asked, the Amazon wish list is up and running and is in the description of this video. I hope you enjoy the final results.